Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fun edition of Kings Talk with ABC 10's Sean Cunningham, Lina Washington. I really don't remember where we last left our viewers, Sean, but let's see. The Kings are coming into their next game in Madison Square Garden tomorrow, riding an 8-game losing streak. They were just at full strength in terms of starters for the first time in several games last night in their loss to the Nets, which was a part of that losing streak at home when they went 0-5 on their homestand, in which Rashawn Holmes spent some time out, Marvin Bagley spent some time out, Harrison Barnes spent some time out, and now the Kings have waived Glenn Robinson III, and here we are, 7 games, I believe, under 500 at this point, and not looking too hot heading into this All-Star break, Sean. They got 2 more games on this roadie. Where is your level of confidence, enthusiasm, as you hear my noisy roommates in the background?
The furry roommates.
The furry roommates might have been showing more fight in some of the Kings games that we've seen, particularly on their home floor at Golden One Center in these last, I would say, 10 games.
And 100%. That's a given.
8 of them.
That's a given. Yeah. No, I mean, you asked confidence. I mean, man, you asked. I think we did this 2 weeks ago. We missed a week. But yeah, February 7th was the last time that the Kings won. That was in LA. And we were talking about at the time, like, gosh, this team, really competes, especially on the road. Home court hasn't been all that kind. And, I'm not saying I was Nostradamus here, but like we were talking about it. Like for some reason, home court hasn't been kind. Well, they go 0-5 on the homestand, and here they are on a 5-game road trip, and they're 3 games in, and they've already lost. They're still 0-3, so that's 8 straight, the most that they've lost all year. But yeah, there are encouraging signs. I mean, you're talking about the way they played against Brooklyn on Monday night or Tuesday night. Yes, Tuesday night, last night. Sorry, getting everything in the pandemic blends. But yeah, I mean, the way they competed was certainly more encouraging. They're back to full strength, I guess, if you can call it that. We're looking at the injury report today, and it's like, okay, yeah, Shemezi Metu's still on there, and both the two-way, both of the rookies, the second-round picks, Jemias Ramsey and Gary Woodard, the second, are in the bubble in the G League. So, I mean, things are looking okay for being 0-8, and that feels weird because they're finally competing. Look, 8 of these games that they've played in this losing streak, half of them they've lost by double digits. They've lost in weird ways. Sometimes it's effort, sometimes it's dealing with that physicality. Other times it's just buzzard luck. I mean, you're going to 2 of those games were against the Nets, and they're just unbelievable. The Nets would probably beat them 8 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times. I've said that about the Bucks. They fall in that category as well. So they upper echelon opponents for sure. I think it's those games really against the likes of Chicago and tomorrow against the Knicks, who, I'm not trying to look, they're a playoff team right now in the East, so I don't want to call them, one of the, the cellar dwellers or anything like that. There's not really an opponent you can say for the Sacramento Kings should beat, but certainly you're feeling better about the way they've competed, especially against the Brooklyn Nets the other night.
And it's worth noting the Nets were still without Kevin Durant, who is still missing time with a hamstring strain, I believe. But De'Aaron Fox also missed some time in that stretch where they were on their home floor. He's back. And as we've talked repeatedly on this show here, he is playing, or at times playing, at an all-star level. He's might have stumbled as of late, but as we've seen the final all-star rosters and reserves revealed, he is not upon them. And you gotta wonder.
Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised.
No. Okay.
I think when Devin Booker is also snubbed, I mean,
that's surprising.
That's absolutely surprising. But again,
let me ask you this:
ambitious benchmark, sure, given the position in the conference. But
I was asked this because I was, I'm not the biggest Devin Booker fan, but undeniably the dude was an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you have had Devin Booker over? Because I have theories, and realizing that, look, the NBA coaches have to pick, what is it, 2 guards, 2 forwards, and 2 whatever players, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. So it's not like they can just add all guards. I get that. But, yeah, who would you have replaced?
I mean, just based on
I mean, would you go over Chris Paul, for example?
That's really the only option for me as I look at the roster. And you know what? Chris Paul is absolutely an all-star, but he is on the record saying that he came to Phoenix because of Devin Booker to play alongside him. And if he wants to volunteer as tribute so that D-Book can, that's who I would say. What is there anyone that you think is even a question, a debate, a thought?
Well, the one to me, and I look at this isn't King's rose glasses, purple glasses I'm wearing, but I think it's the two bigs. I mean, honestly, like Chris Paul, sure, if he's an all-star, that's great. To me, it was Devin Booker. Look, what are they? They're in fourth place right now. They could be in third by tomorrow. I don't think they're in third yet. I don't have it in front of me, but I know they're in fourth place right now. Look, Anthony Davis with the injury. I mean, are we really going to reward the?
Right.
I don't know. That was a little questionable. And look, I know Zion Williamson, unbelievably popular. His time will come. I was okay with him being an all-star, and that's not my allegiance to Duke and being a Duke fan, but sure. It is. But honestly, I'd rather see Devin Booker over Zion Williamson from a who deserves it standpoint. But from an entertainment standpoint, no, I'd rather watch Zion Williamson. And I think, from a overall, now I do think what LeBron said about Devin Booker being the NBA's most disrespected player. Said who? Well, why?
Said LeBron James.
Yeah, but where else? Give me another example of him being disrespected. Like, is he?
He wasn't. He was an all-star injured reserve last year as well, was he not? Or 2 years ago?
I mean, okay, but they sucked last year. True, but last year's De'Aaron Fox, if you want to say that. I mean, De'Aaron, look, he's putting up numbers, but we were talking about they're not rewarding teams that don't win. Maybe in this case, exception of Zion Williamson, who is the one I just said probably shouldn't be there, but has also put up really big numbers and obviously also gets a ton of votes. A very popular player. So De'Aaron is neither. So if you're looking at Zion, who gets votes and blah blah blah, De'Aaron doesn't get votes and is also on a team that's not good. So that's what we were talking about for the past couple of weeks.
Right.
So I can see the exception with Zion. I don't know that I don't agree with LeBron that Devin Booker is disrespected unless there's some other thing out there that I mean, look, Devin Booker's an all-star. I'm saying it. Devin Booker should be an all-star. Disrespected though? I mean, Chris Paul got rewarded. I get it. You're having the success. I get it. But last year you were not even an 8th seed. So what are we talking about?
But he was no shade to Mikal Bridges or anyone else, but he was appointment viewing during the NBA bubble. Not the Suns in general, but specifically Devin Booker. I mean, the memes, the moments, but
that happened after the All-Star game. So who's disrespecting Devin Booker?
The people who voted.
The
people, the media, the coaches, whoever's involved, right?
Yeah. The coaches, yes. The coaches
Excel
definitely
spreadsheet there.
Yeah, and the coaches picked the reserves. And by the way, and I said this on Twitter, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but look, when we went over a couple of weeks ago, we went over the voting for players, and Kyle Guy has 2-3 votes. And
we have some theories about that one.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying they're saying, hey, Sean Cunningham voted for this guy, blah, blah, blah. But at least you have your NBA votes and you know what numbers went where. So you know that Kyle Guy with media players, that players voted for Kyle Guy. You don't know who did, but why can't the same thing happen with NBA coaches? I'm not saying we need to know. That. We do know that Luke Walton can't pick any of his own players. Greg Popovich can't pick any of his own players. But I do want to know if DeMar DeRozan had 6 NBA coaches vote for him as an all-star reserve. That's what we should know. We should know that of the NBA coaches, if Devin Booker got snubbed, which he did, and I'm on record in saying that, I want to know how many coach votes he got. How many was he shy? Did he get? Because snubbed, yes, but did he miss one coach's vote? Because again, Monty Williams can't vote for him.
Right. Yeah, it's we want the receipts.
I want the receipts.
Note to the league. Show us the receipts. Yeah. Okay.
That was a big tangent. I apologize about that.
No. I think the people wanted to get on the soapbox when it comes to the all-star voting. But Kings fans, they're on the struggle bus right now because again, looked like the team was on the upswing, and then just to fall flat, not just at home, but on the road. Again, very talented teams, but we've seen them beat talented teams several times early on in the season. And of course, the injuries and the changes to the lineup play into that. But we've seen guys like Nemanja Bjelica step up when his number's called, getting his first start of the season after missing a lot of time. Almost, I think he didn't play for a month almost or more. Daquan Jeffries, now that he's back and healthy, he's been a contributing factor in losing efforts, but still bringing, some of, I don't remember his percentage, but knocking down from outside, which has been a point of struggle for the Kings, being able to hit from distance. And then again, the physicality down low, they've been just abused by bigs, literally and figuratively. I mean, Chimezie Metu has a broken wrist right now because of what Jonas Valanciunas did to him in that game here at home. But, we've seen these bigs put up big numbers. We've seen flashes of physicality in response to even last night, the way that they came back against the Nets, and the fight that they showed in the second half was promising, but you got to maintain that from beginning to end. And whether it's the start of the game, letting teams score 42 points, going on 20-0 runs in the third, it seems like either way you slice it, they're not able to put together a complete game.
Sorry, my mute there was on. Yeah, I mean, complete game, I think, is what it comes down to. But also, look, I think we've accepted the fact, even though we have seen at times better competition on the defensive end. I think we've just accepted this team's a really shitty defensive team. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just what it is. Sorry for the language, but I think that's just what it is. We just know that this team is not going to be good defensively. They've certainly showed effort at times, but the one thing they just cannot be is a bad offensive team, especially with the pace of play they have. And the way this team is constructed, you can't have nights where you're just not bringing it on the offensive end. I'm looking at you, Buddy Hield. What is going on from the consistency standpoint? De'Aaron Fox all of a sudden has this great run, and all of a sudden he gets the knee contusion, and certainly that comes into play. We've been talking about it. Harrison Barnes is a guy who just, in order for this team to have success, needs to score the basketball. So when he leaves, when he gets hurt with the foot strain against the Memphis game, tries to get it going against Brooklyn, has his worst outing. Brooklyn goes up and chucks up 27 threes, and they beat the Kings, and it really kind of snowballs this losing streak. To me, they just can't have any drop off from the offensive standpoint. I think that's what we've seen. Granted, you'll still see at the end of the game, well, they scored 112, 118, even 110 points, whatever. That's still a lot of points. We get it, but it's the way it's happening. You're seeing. Look, they had a game against the Bucks where they held the Bucks for 3 quarters under 30 points. And, that's always kind of the barometer whether or not the Kings played decent defense or not. Unfortunately, all those quarters was like 28, 29, 29, and 42 in the second quarter. And that was what did them in. I don't know that it's so much consistent effort as it is just, you just have to be on offensively in order for this team to have that type of success for as bad as they've been defensively. We saw how they responded to physicality at some point in the season. It had been dreadful. They got some of that back. They started competing a little bit better. I think having having Daquan Jeffries back is definitely going to help things a little bit. I think he's put up some really nice signs of things, and that's one of the reasons why, Glenn Robinson was released today. But having him back, I didn't expect him to have the, probably these games and the impact that he's had at such a small sample size after missing the entire season. So I like what we're seeing from him, especially on both ways. And we were talking about, Lina, they really just don't have another player like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's that missing piece, that spark. I feel like, I liken him to, the Iman Shumperts, Bogies, even just the guy that comes off in that second unit or comes in and brings that clutch energy that you kind of need. And absolutely like what we're seeing out of him now that he's healthy and able to produce. But we've seen, 8 or 9 different starting lineups from Luke Walton so far. Again, injuries playing into that, absolutely. But we got to talk about the rookie, Tyrese Halliburton, another career night. And I believe that was he performed well on his home floor when he went back to Wisconsin and they got beat by the Bucks. But
shellacked by the Bucks.
But of course he's not going to share what was said. But to have that moment captured with him and James Harden and him and Kyrie Irving, of course, to be somebody who was within earshot of that. But I mean, that must have been, we've heard how surreal it was for him to set foot on the court next to Dame in his first preseason game. But to have that moment, especially after, a loss and just have that moment of grace from these two all-stars, truly incredible.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought that was really cool about that moment, we mentioned with Tyrese Halliburton getting the words of wisdom or advice from Kyrie and James Harden, was the fact that he wasn't I've seen young players come through this Kings team for so many years, Tyreek Evans, De'Aaron Fox, DeMarcus Cousins, guys that would come through and like, oh, it's going to be the next star. It's going to be the next star for this team. And, there are moments of that. Obviously, Boogie became an all-star. Tyreek was Rookie of the Year. But I would see these guys tend to wait some of these guys out to go and say hello. It would be the young player trying to seek out that veteran. I remember Kobe, when he called Tyreek Evans a grown-ass man after going up against him, Kobe went to Tyreek to seek him out and that kind of that was a cool moment. And that was kind of similar to what we saw with Tyrese Halliburton. Was James Harden and Kyrie Irving, granted, they're not going to see the Kings at all unless they meet in the finals, and that ain't happening. So, but to see those two guys seek Tyrese Halliburton out after the game, and not Tyrese trying to run them down and go to them like a kid looking for their autograph, I thought really was a cool moment because he didn't play great in that first game against Brooklyn, but definitely last night against Brooklyn was super impactful. You can really see what type of player he wants to be. And I think that's kind of the give and take with Tyrese a little bit, is trying to find when he's going to be that aggressive scoring type of player. Certainly he makes everybody better. And it's a question I asked him after that Brooklyn game, which is, here you are in the midst of a 7-game at the time losing streak. Then it becomes 8 games with that loss to Brooklyn. Do you feel any more of that pressure where all of a sudden you're like, all right, I got to do this? He's certainly listening to the coaching staff who wants him to be a little bit more aggressive, and it was at least giving him that kind of feedback. But, somebody has to step up and score. And granted, last night was that first game back with Harrison Barnes after missing a few games with the foot strain, and he just hasn't been right. It was nice to kind of see him get there, but if someone's got to pick up the scoring slack, and if it's not Buddy Hield and it's not Harrison Barnes, well, then maybe it's Tyrese Halliburton.
Absolutely, and he has been known to be clutch. I mean, the clutch moments that we saw from him in his first 17 games are what earned him Rookie of the Month. And just to see the poise, the composure that he shows out there is impressive to his coaches, his teammates. But even if he's not scoring the ball, I mean, he led the team in assists last night, and the way he's able to facilitate and his vision, I mean, I think it's a little bit fancy with some spin moves and some no looks, but yeah. I mean, it rarely does it fail. I mean, he knows he has a tremendous vision, and, we've heard time and time again just how mature he is and how ahead of his time he is in terms of knowledge of the game and where he's at in terms of adapting. Again, he didn't have a summer league. He didn't have a full-fledged training camp. He had 3 weeks before he was facing Damian Lillard and Jamal Murray and, all of these guys that are all-stars in the West, who his teammate De'Aaron Fox, he could put up 30, have 20-point outings, but he's not even an all-star, So just to have that experience this early on, and he's not, you could tell he's not used to losing streaks like this, to have this kind of internalization of, we still have work to do, right? And a long way to go.
And if he was a football player, I feel like he'd have been a safety or a cornerback. I mean, most people probably say a quarterback because of the way he can pass and the vision, but the way he waits in those passing lanes, I saw him. It was, I think, watching him against Brooklyn, there was one play where he darted for the ball, missed it, trying to come up with a steal, got out of position. And I thought to myself, for as many steals and passing lanes as he fills, that felt like it was the first time seeing that, because he just doesn't miss. He doesn't miss that many times.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's had multiple steal games, and again, he's still learning the ropes of going up against these grown ass men.
Yeah.
He's still filling into his NBA body as well. I think even his 21st birthday is coming up here. So, like what we see out of the rookie, and again, Quan Jeffries, another guy that we are certainly glad to see healthy. But yeah, we need Harrison Barnes to get back to where he was in early February, late January when they were on that upswing.
And Buddy,
And
man.
and yeah, he's been performing, and there have been times, right, where he hasn't scored the ball or shot very well, but he was able to have an impact in terms of facilitating or rebounding or.
I think that's where it's at though with him. I think he's just thinking about so many different things, trying to be the good teammate. It's like, nah, man, just shoot the ball.
Just do what you do, man.
Just do what you do.
Reigning
Yeah.
3-point champion, man.
Yeah, and I mean, here we're almost a year from that now. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of or did we pass that? Maybe we passed it. I can't remember. It's all blending together.
Yeah, I'm not quite
Oh,
sure.
because we got the later start. That's right.
What I do know is we are really on the 1 year anniversary of Kobe and Gianna Bryant's memorial down in Los Angeles. And we were down there for coverage, and it was really a surreal moment being in LA at that time. I remember one of the servers at the establishments that we were able to be inside back in the day, of, just saying the air felt different in LA. And at that time it had been over a month. But I mean, just thinking about that, and how it's only been a year since, people got that level of closure, and there's still so much conversation. I mean, speaking of Kyrie, he's out here campaigning for Jerry West to be done with on the logo and replace it with Kobe Bryant. I mean, I'm sure Michael Jordan might want to have a word there, but that's where we're at. And again, I'm sure there's still going to be some kind of presence or something maybe acknowledging in the upcoming All-Star game or festivities, whatever they look like here in the next week.
But yeah, I wonder if they will. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I wonder if they will.
Oh, no.
You're right. That atmosphere down there, the Sacramento Kings were a part of it. They were in there. Luke Walton, with the former teammate, and obviously the entire team was able to attend that, and it was interesting being outside of that. And I think about just the past year and the Super Bowl even before that for us, but that was probably the most people we had been around, especially outside of Staples Center and in the LA Live area, where all of a sudden it's like we don't have that anymore. Can you imagine something like that happening that wasn't necessarily a protest? I mean, just being around that many people, it feels jarring all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was still kind of jarring to see how, it wasn't jarring, I should say, but it was just really impactful to see how much Kobe meant to the city of LA. I mean, you had people who traveled from out of state who had, wrapped cars dedicated to him and Gianna and everything. So, I just I looked at the clock and the date, and I was just reminded of, where we were a year ago today. But of course, as we continue to follow the latest in the NBA, I'm sure that, we're going to be talking about potential changes in the All-Star festivities as we look ahead. I don't know exactly where your feelings are with the 3-point contest or the dunk or whatever they have going on in addition to the game that wasn't supposed to be happening in the first place, or where you're at with that.
The Kings have to feel pretty good that they're going to have 6 days off, even if Buddy goes to defend his 3-point crown. Hopefully he's only gone a day or two and able to get some much needed rest for this team, because if you look at that's the other thing that happened today, is having the second half of the season come out. It is truncated. I mean, everything is just crammed in there, and it just feels weird, because in normal times, I remember Adam Silver talking about, we want to reduce the amount of back-to-backs and the 3 games in 4 nights, and you're going to have 8 sets of back-to-backs, 8 instances of 3 games in 4 nights in these final 3 months. And it all gets going on the 11th when they host Houston. And it's like, all right, you're going to host Houston. And I mean, you're going to have, I think I wrote it down here. You have 16 games at home, 20 on the road, and the 36 remaining. And if you look at the standings right now and how streaky this team has been, a lot of season left, obviously. And the Kings will keep telling you that, and the players will keep telling you that. But even with the streak of lose 9 of 11, win 7 of 8, and now here you are losing 8 in a row again. Very odd to see that in the schedule. But the separation right now is starting to happen, and obviously those play-in games are going to come into play here in May. You know, it's definitely going to happen from the 7, 8, 9, and 10 seeds. And right now the separation is happening. I mean, you've got, I wrote it down here, the 8th seed right now. The difference between 8th and where the Kings are right now after this 8th game losing streak is 5 games. That doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot to make up right now. So they have to start making some headway. But again, if you can be in that, 9, 10, even 11, just 10 is your mark. That's where you got to be for this play-in game.
Yeah, and thank goodness for that for the Kings, because at least you have a chance.
You're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance. Like you said, there is a lot of season left, but when you start hitting these moments of turmoil, I mean, they start piling on, and then it's like quicksand, right? I mean, we heard De'Aaron Fox say, like, no one's going to feel sorry for us. We gotta, figure it out. And people are going to try to keep us down. And that's really where they're at right now. I mean, the Knicks, they got the Knicks at home. And that was part of their winning streak, I believe, when they really started looking hot against this Knicks team that at the time was one of the best defensive teams, if not the best defensive team in the league. And they got, beat by the Kings, who are now one of the worst defensive teams, if not the worst defensive team in the league. So certainly looking forward to that matchup. Then they got Detroit, and then they come back for a couple more games on the West Coast, including against the Blazers, the Lakers. I don't know what your prediction is. If you have a win-loss prediction for these next several games in this first half, Sean?
I don't have well, you know what? Here, let me bring up the schedule right in front of me, because I was looking at it earlier. And if they can get an effort like they had against Brooklyn the other night, certainly you're feeling a lot better. I think, look, having the day off before the Knicks game and not having travel in between, being able to stay in New York, I think is going to help. I think especially with the Knicks coming off of the loss against the Warriors last night, having them having played, I think was that tonight? I think tonight. So I think that'll definitely help, knowing that the Knicks have just played. So jump on a team that just played and is going to be in a back-to-back, although that didn't treat you too kindly when Brooklyn
I wish I had that stat in front of me, how their win-loss, total against teams on back-to-backs, because we know that they lost twice to teams coming in on back-to-backs in this losing streak. So at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. And by the way, I actually have it right here. If you really want, since you teased it, I will pull that up here, because I do have that right here.
Look at you go.
Yeah, in the back-to-backs. Okay, you ready for this? Let me see if I can find this here. Here we go. They're 4. Okay, overall, the Kings are 4-8 in back-to-backs. They're 3-3 in the first game and 1-5 in the second game. And for the opponent, actually, I don't have the opponent stat. I thought I did. I lied. But that's what the Kings are looking like.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested to know how successful opponents are when they're coming in on a back-to-back facing teams, whether it be on a cross-country time change like the Magic, or at home like the Heat. So
for sure. But looking at the rest of that schedule, I mean, you have to close out this homestand. To me, it's imperative that you sweep this back-to-back with the Knicks and the Pistons. So that's Thursday, Friday. You got to win those 2 games. You come back, you have Charlotte at home before the Lakers at home, and then the next night in Portland to close out the first half of the season. I think if you can win 3 of those games, you're feeling pretty good. Anything under that is going to be a tough pill to swallow with what you're facing coming up in the second half, because I think it's brutal. I really do. Those 3 games in 4 nights, those are brutal. Those are absolutely brutal.
It's also worth noting that at this time, we know Hassan Whiteside will not be in tomorrow's game with the Knicks because of health and safety protocols. So that's another big man down for the Kings.
Yeah, it's just coming across, huh?
Am I wrong in that?
No, I hadn't seen that at the time that it happened, but that might have been on the 5:30 injury report. So yeah, that would be. I did not see that. So that's
Yes, so that is an update on the bodies that will be available. What is your confidence level of them coming in? And you say they're must-win games, but we've seen them
well,
lose must-win games. What is
yeah.
your confidence level tomorrow in Detroit?
Well, tomorrow in New York and then Detroit. But I'll say,
Right.
I'll say, confidence is not high for them to win both of those games. But again, you mentioned what happened with Hassan Whiteside. Fortunately, he hasn't really been much of a factor these past few games. So last night, I don't think he played at all against the Nets. So if that's the case, and you're going up against a team like the Knicks and the Pistons, I feel like you can probably win those games even without Whiteside's presence. And let's be honest, Whiteside's one of those guys that all of a sudden is the subject of trade rumor because there's a lot of teams like the Lakers, like the Phoenix Suns, who could probably use a big man presence. And Hassan Whiteside could be on the way out here shortly, especially with the he signed to a veterans minimum. It's a very movable contract, and if the Kings can likely get a second round, maybe 2 second-round picks for him, that's kind of is what it is. But I think you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to try to compete this season, and that's a tough thing to do. Luckily, March 25th, as you know, is the trade deadline. It's still a month away, so there's a lot of basketball to be played. You've got some time to think about it, but I think some of these, I would venture to say that Hassan Whiteside might not be a major factor going forward for the Kings as they try to turn things around, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some good performances when they've called his number, but whether he's a member of this long-term vision that Monty McNair has for his team that he's inherited,
No.
It remains to be seen. And there is conversation, as there always is, about whether or not Luke Walton's on the hot seat. Of course, with the new GM in place. As you know, you're well to note that the numbers for guys who are still around from the old regime, not very good in terms of sticking around and retention. So, I don't, again, nonstop conversation, especially when you're hitting a losing streak like this that hasn't been seen in years, and you're already at your threshold of sadness and losing. if you're a fan, if you're an owner. So I don't know if you have a temperature on what you think could happen. Obviously, there is contracts.
Yeah,
Luke is under, so
yeah, Luke is definitely guaranteed through next year. So I mean, he's definitely going to get his money. And look, NBA teams are not making money right now, especially with no fans at most of these games, and the fans that are able to attend in certain cities, it's not a lot. So it's not like it's a profitable experience for some of these for these NBA franchises. But that being said, Monty McNair, didn't hire Luke Walton. And we talked about it before the season. I didn't think Luke Walton would survive beyond this season. So that's just to say that I believe that Monty McNair, who's a general manager and within his right, will want to hire his own coach. That could be somebody who's on the bench right now in Alvin Gentry. It may not. But I think knowing that they're already bleeding money and they're not trying to just push away free money, that could work into Luke's favor in trying to get a longer rope to try to turn this thing around and show Monty McNair that he could be the guy going long term. I don't know if I have ultimate confidence in that. In fact, I don't. But look, Luke is giving it his all. He's coaching this team as much as possible, and I mean to the best of his abilities. And he's certainly getting. I think he's been getting. Look, it's very rare when we come in and we say this team just doesn't have the effort. I don't think they've quit on the coaching staff. They're a very competitive team. They like the coaching staff. In fact, talking to these players, even privately, I know people feel very highly about Luke. They respect Luke. It's not a lack of respect. And even Buddy Hield, who might have been critical of Luke last year, is the first guy to sing his praises, even in a season where he's struggling. So that all points to good things when it comes to Luke Walton. But certainly there's going to be critics out there. Certainly I've been critical of Luke and things that I don't like that I've seen with the Kings. I don't know if it should cost him his job, but when, like you said, Lina, when you lose 8 straight and you have these streaks, the coach is always the one that gets the blame and the blame. A lot of people don't like to credit teams when they go off and rattle off 7 of 8 wins. And I said that last time we talked, which is the players will always get the credit and the coach will always get the blame. I think Luke was a big reason for that 7 of 8 success. But here they are, nonetheless. We're another 8-game losing streak. So got to turn it around. And we've already seen the likes, some weird, odd coaching moves especially with the Timberwolves this past week. Firing Ryan Saunders and then 15 minutes later bringing in Chris Finch. So I know Chris Finch is very well respected. That's a name that had even circulated out here a little bit. So who knows? I think teams ultimately don't do for as much as fans might like to think that teams want to do this broad coaching search and go after people. We know that Luke Walton was at the top of Vlade Divac's list when he brought him in. There's a reason why they didn't really interview a whole lot of people, and once Luke became available, acted very quickly to fire Dave Yeager and hire Luke Walton because it was who he wanted, even before they hired Dave and before Luke got his first head coaching stint with the Lakers. So people like who they like. So we'll see how that plays out. I think Luke right now knows that seat is very, very warm, but I think he also knows that when you look at just the landscape of the NBA and the profitability of these teams, that they're not trying to just push away money that's guaranteed to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. That could, of course, still raise even more questions, right, about the way that the team manages money if they decide to make this move and bring somebody else on it. Guys like Alvin Gentry, I don't know if they're not going to come cheap. So, you got to pay the man if that were the case, whoever it is. I would expect them to, want maybe somebody with a bit of a record of success, given that they are on track to hold the longest active playoff drought in the NBA. Right now it's going on 15 seasons. So
too long. Just too long. Just gross.
As the resident Suns fan in the building, I feel your pain. Just not as badly, just not as severely. But we're getting there. But we got a lot. We got a lot to discuss and mull over, of course, as we look ahead to these final stretch of games in the first half. We got our first look at the schedule coming up for the Kings, and it's not going to be easy, but we'll bring you all the latest moves and all the latest conversation, the storylines you need to know. Follow us on Twitter, Sean Cunningham, Washington TV. If you live in the Sacramento area, tune in Sunday nights. We talk about the Kings on Toyota Sports Extra at 11:35, so stay up with us. And if you're past your bedtime, if that's past your bedtime, you can always find us on YouTube.
Just
so
DVR.
We'll back here. Yeah, DVR.
Yeah, you got to DVR it.
For sure. But, if you want to, see us anytime, any place, you can find us on YouTube here. And we'll see you next time for more Kings Talk.